The cabin went quiet the moment the man's voice cut through the noise. "I'm not sitting here," he snapped, pointing down the aisle. "First, they pack us in like cattle, now they've got people like her running around. No wonder this country's falling apart." He jabbed his finger toward a black woman in a navy uniform, walking calmly past him with a folder in her hand. "Go back to where you came from," he added, louder this time, making sure everyone heard. Heads turned. Some people looked away. Some stared at their phones, pretending. The woman stopped for half a second. Her jaw tightened, but her face stayed calm. She gave a small, practiced smile and kept walking toward the front of the plane. 10 minutes later, that same woman picked up the intercom in the cockpit, took a breath, and said, in a clear, steady voice, "Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. This is Captain Amara Cole speaking from the flight deck." The man's face drained of color. If you care about powerful black racism stories and dignity, subscribe so you don't miss the next story. How did things get here? And how many times had she heard words like his before this moment? Amara Cole was 32 years old, born in a small town just outside Atlanta. Her mother was a nurse from Georgia. Her father had come from Ghana with 2 suitcases and a head full of hope. The first time Amara sat on a plane, she was 9. She pressed her forehead to the window as the ground shrank beneath her, the clouds drawing closer, the world turning soft and small. "I want to do this," she whispered. "Do what?" her mother asked. "Fly. I want to be the one flying this." Her mother smiled, but her eyes flickered with worry. "Then you study hard. You'll have to work twice as much, baby. Twice as much, just to be seen is enough." In high school, when other kids dreamed about cars and parties, Amara had posters of aircraft on her walls. Her guidance counselor laughed the first time she said pilot. "Sweetheart, that's ambitious. Maybe start with something more realistic? Flight attendant, maybe? You'd look so friendly in the uniform." She went home that day and cried into her pillow. Not because she believed him, but because a part of her was so tired of always pushing against people's low expectations. Still, she studied harder. She worked nights, saved every dollar, earned a scholarship, and fought her way through flight school. She was often the only black person in the room. Many days, the only woman. She learned to ignore the stares, the quiet jokes. "Are you lost?" "Maintenance is that way," an instructor once said when she walked into the classroom in her first week. "No, sir," she replied, forcing her voice not to shake. "I'm here to fly." Years passed. Hours in the sky added up. She got her commercial license, then her first job with a regional airline. Then, finally, the big one, a major international carrier. From the outside, it looked like she had arrived. But inside the daily routine, racism never really left. It just put on a nicer suit. Even as a captain, people kept assuming she was anything but. At the airport, passengers would hand her their trash, thinking she was cabin crew. Colleagues would say, "You're so lucky, they must be trying to fill some diversity quota." Strangers would ask, "So who's really flying the plane?" One morning, before this flight, she'd sat across from her manager in a glass office. "We've decided to give the training captain role to Mark," he said. Mark had fewer flight hours than she did. He had come to the airline after her. He admired her. He'd told her so. "Can I ask why?" she said quietly. Her manager shifted in his chair. "You're excellent, Amara. Truly. But the trainees might relate better to someone like Mark. We want them to feel comfortable. Someone like Mark. Comfortable." She walked out of that office feeling like the sky had shrunk. Her dream, once endless, felt like it had invisible ceilings now. At home, she found a voice message from her mother. "Some kids at church told Isaiah his skin was too dark," her mother said, trying to sound calm. "He asked me if he'd ever get a job like yours. I told him, of course, baby. But, Amara." I heard my own voice shake. That afternoon, she packed her flight bag with hands that trembled just a little. On the way through security, 2 businessmen behind her whispered, "See that? Didn't know they were hiring them for captains now." "Relax," the other laughed. "As long as some real pilot's up there." She pretended not to hear. She did what she had always done, swallowed the hurt, straightened her back, and kept walking. At the gate, she noticed a girl, maybe 16, with dark skin and long braids, hugging a worn notebook to her chest. The girl's eyes followed Amara's wings on her jacket with quiet awe. Amara gave her a small nod and a smile. The girl smiled back, as she had just been permitted to dream. Boarding started. Amara did her checks and walked through the cabin to the cockpit. That was when the man in seat 22C started shouting. "I paid good money for this seat," he barked at a flight attendant. "Now you've got this circus going on." "And her," he pointed at Amara as she passed, walking up and down like she owns the place. "Where are the real pilots?" The words hit her like a slap. The flight attendant froze, glancing apologetically at Amara. The man wasn't finished. "You know what? People like you should just go back to where you came from. This country is a mess because you all keep pushing into places you don't belong." The cabin tensed. Someone gasped softly. Most people looked down, pretending they hadn't heard. Amara's eyes flicked to the girl with the braids. The girl stared at her, her shoulders shrinking, eyes wide with hurt and confusion. Amara had heard insults before. She had learned to bury them, to be professional, to not make a scene. But this time, with that girl watching, something inside her refused to stay silent. The gate agent called the cockpit before departure. "Captain, we have a situation in the economy. The passenger in 22C is demanding to speak to the pilot. Says he doesn't feel safe with certain people on board." Silence on the line. "I'll come back," Amara said. She opened the cockpit door, stepped into the aisle, and walked toward 22C. The hum of the air conditioning filled the cabin. Dozens of eyes followed her. The man looked up, still furious, expecting someone else. "Sir," Amara said, voice calm but firm. "You asked to speak to the pilot?" "Yeah." "Finally." He rolled his eyes. "Can I talk to the person actually in charge?" "Not the staff." Amara held his gaze. "You are talking to the person in charge," she said. "My name is Captain Amara Cole. I'll be flying this aircraft today." For a moment, everything was still. The color drained from his face. His mouth opened, then closed. He stammered. "You? You're the—" "Yes," she replied. "I trained for years for this. I've flown thousands of hours. My job is to get every single person on this plane safely to our destination. Including you." Her hands were steady now. Her voice was clear. "I also have a responsibility," she continued, "to keep this cabin safe and respectful. That means I cannot allow racist or abusive language toward my crew or my passengers." The girl with the braids sat frozen, eyes locked on her. A child in the next row peeked over his seat. An older woman placed a gentle hand over her heart. "So here are your options, sir," Amara went on. "You can choose to stay on this flight, treat everyone around you with respect, and we will take you where you're going. Or you can choose to leave the aircraft now. But the one thing you do not get to choose is my worth, or anyone else's, based on the color of our skin. That's not up for discussion." The man looked around, suddenly aware of all the eyes on him. His bravado crumbled. I just don't like," he muttered. "Sir," the gate agent stepped in, voice polite but firm, "do you want to continue this journey or would you like to be rebooked?" The man swallowed. His shoulders dropped. "I'll stay," he mumbled. "I'll stay." "Thank you," Amara said. "Then let's have a respectful flight." As she turned to walk back, a few soft claps broke out. Not loud. Not dramatic. But real. The older woman near the aisle whispered, "Thank you, Captain." The girl with the braids sat taller, her eyes shining. Amara returned to the cockpit, closed the door, and let out the breath she had been holding for years. When she picked up the intercom a few minutes later, her voice carried a new weight. "Good afternoon, this is Captain Amara Cole from the flight deck. Welcome aboard." The flight was smooth. The sky outside faded from blue to gold to deep indigo. People slept, watched movies, and read their books. When they landed, and the passengers began to file out, the girl with the braids waited by the cockpit door. "Captain," she said softly. Amara turned. "Yes?" I wanted to say, when he talked to you like that, I felt," the girl's voice shook. I've heard people say things like that to me, too. I thought that maybe people like us couldn't really be in charge. She looked at Amara like she was looking at a future version of herself.
And I see it in you.
But then you stood there, the girl said. And you didn't shout, and you didn't cry. You just told him the truth. And suddenly I wasn't ashamed anymore. Tears pricked Amara's eyes.
I see my future when
What's
I
your
look
name?
at you. And I see it in you. You'll get there.
Naomi.
We fly
Naomi, Amara said, don't let anyone shrink your sky because they're afraid of how high you can go.
All right, time for takeoff.
Their fear is not your limit. You hear me? Naomi nodded, wiping her eyes. Yes, ma'am. As the last passengers left, Amara sat alone in the cockpit for a moment, hands resting on the controls. She thought of her father, cleaning offices at night when he first arrived in this country. She thought of her mother, telling her brother his skin was beautiful, even when her own voice shook. She thought of all the doors that had been half opened, half closed. She realized that her victory wasn't just about flying a plane. It was about refusing to be small in a world that tried, again and again, to cut her down to size. In the weeks that
I've
followed,
outlined the new
she wrote
training
a formal,
protocols in
honest
this
letter to the
Your
airline about
insights
the
will help us
promotion
build a
decision,
stronger, more
about the
inclusive
quiet
team.
ways discrimination hides behind comfort and fit. She joined a mentoring program for young pilots from underrepresented backgrounds. She told them the things she had needed to hear at 16. Some people changed. Some did not. But the biggest change was inside her. She no longer believed that professional meant silent in the face of hatred. She understood that others do not give dignity, it is claimed by standing up, again and again, for your own worth and for the cost of those watching you. Racism did not disappear. It rarely does in one moment. But on that flight, on that day, it lost a little bit of its power. And somewhere, a girl named Naomi started dreaming in bigger skies. If anyone has ever tried to make you feel small because of your skin, your name, your accent, or your background, remember this, their prejudice is not the truth about you. You belong in every room your talent, your work, and your heart can take you. Never let someone's hate decide how high you're allowed to fly.